I got home from work today, and luckily I got some new parts. Not big parts, but I was excited to get them just because I like getting anything in the mail. But I had ordered a SAE Outlaw uh, main girdle for the bottom end of the motor. I actually have one in the motor I'm running right now, and the motor's been rock solid, reliable last year. Couldn't be happier with it, but I'm actually building a second motor, and it'll be kind of next level compared to the one I'm running now. And it will probably take me most of this year to get that motor put together. It's not cheap what I'm doing to this one. It's kind of some ideas I want to try, things I want to do, but this was one of the pieces I picked up from SAE Outlaw on his flash sale he was doing this winter. So I got it for a good price, and it'll just go in the pile of other things I've been collecting for that motor. The motor that's in the bike now will eventually, I'll run it this year, but eventually I will just freshen it up, and it'll just kind of stay as a spare if something were to go wrong with this new endeavor I want to take on. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then the other thing I'm a little bit more excited about is I got my titanium hardware I was talking about. So we got some quarter 20 button heads, 10 of those, 10 flange titanium nuts, pretty cool. Hardware for the infrared tire temp sensor I was talking about, and then hardware for the hugger. So I'll take out all the stainless hardware that's in the carbon fiber hugger and replace everything with titanium. So pretty cool. Does absolutely probably nothing for making the bike go any faster, but it's just a cool factor. And I kind of like finding these little detail things. So pretty cool. So we'll get working on that. But first, we're going to finally put some connectors on the infrared tire temp sensor. So we got our sensor and no connectors. So I'm going to put connectors on this now and actually put it on the bike for good. So what I'm going to do now is finally put my Deutsch connectors on the wires for this temperature sensor. And I'm going to use a 4-wire Deutsch connector. You know, they're pretty common. But normally my theory I go with is I always have the sensors or accessories always plug into the harness of the bike. So however I have things wired on the bike, I always try to make every auxiliary piece plug into the harness of the bike. So the harness on the bike would technically be the female side, and then all my sensors would be male side. So sensor plugs into the bike. However, I'm going to change it up on this particular sensor just because the shock travel sensor uses the same 4-wire Deutsch connector, and it's in the same vicinity of this connector. So to keep them from cross-connecting if I got the bike apart for whatever reason, I'm going to switch sides. I'm going to have the harness side of the bike actually plug into the sensor this time. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's only one sensor, no biggie. So let's get going with putting these connectors on. Got a whole box of miscellaneous ones here. I happen to need a 4-wire female. There it is, 4-wire female. I had a 2-wire out for some reason. So 4-wire there, 4-wire there. Okay, we're good. So now we will just get to getting. So thankfully the sensor came with enough lead that it actually is going to reach from where I'm mounting it all the way up to where all my wire connections are made. So I figured out roughly how much length I wanted to keep off the sensor to where the connector was going to be, which I left myself like 11 inches. And then where I made the cut, now I'll just terminate the other end, so then I can finish routing the wire through the through the chassis, and then this end will connect up to where I make all my sensor connections. So now we will just go ahead and terminate this end of the wire harness. Alright, so now we are staring at my laptop, and we're going to go ahead and take that tire temperature sensor and we're going to turn it on in the fueltech software. So bear with me, I've only been working with the software for the last season, and I had some pretty good help from David Ligori at Ligori Drag Racing. That's who I purchased all the fueltech stuff through, and he was invaluable with helping me get this thing set up and running. But then after the initial base map help back and forth getting the thing running, I've been trying really hard not to bother him and learn this stuff on my own. So that's what I've been doing, and the only way I've been doing that is by just basically spending time playing around with this thing. So we'll open my FT Manager software. Hopefully that boots up quick. I missed it. There, open. There it is. Okay, we'll let that open. And then we will, brings up everything I've been playing with since, and we'll open up my, let's see, recent maps. We'll go to, we'll start with that one. So whatever I change, I can go through and transfer everything from one map over to the next map afterwards, but we'll just do the initial setup here with just getting the sensor figured into the software the way I want it. So the first thing I need to do is activate an input for that sensor. So we will scroll down to inputs. So you can see these are all my inputs I've been using on my white wires. So my number 14 white wire is got nothing on it right now. We'll turn that on. We'll go up here where it says import sensor, and then we will scroll down till we go with, we'll get into tire temperatures here. There we are. Tire temperature. Now, obviously it's a motorcycle, so I don't have 4 tires to pick from. I'm just going to designate right rear is going to be my tire temp. The same thing I did with the shock sensor. I only got 1 shock sensor on the bike, not like a car has 4. So my shock sensor actually reads as right rear, so that's just how I keep it all straight. So we'll okay that right rear. Now I know my white input, number 14, is going to be tire temperature. So now, if we go to, we'll look for my wiring diagram now, which, here we are, wiring harness diagram. So this is basically all my pinouts for what's doing what on the bike. So this is connector 1, or connector A they call it. So we'll scroll over here, connector B, and there it is here. Temperature, tire temperature, right rear, white number 14. So it'll be pin location 9 on my connector B. So I'll pin a wire into that. When I first got the ECU, I unpinned all the wires I wasn't using to keep the harness simpler to work with. So I saved all those wires, so now I can go back and add the white number 19 or pin location 19 back into this plug, and no big deal, we'll make it work. But now that we know that that's active in my wiring diagram, we shall go, we'll set up my dashboard. We'll say dashboard setup. So now I already have a spot here, it says free. That's 2 blocks. I could make 2 gauges out of that if I wanted to, or I'll set it up so that the tire temperature is actually a little more visible. So we'll open that up, and it says display gauge size, information free. So we'll go information. I want that to be right rear tire temperature. So we will scroll down till we get to the tire temperature section. Tire temperature, we want it to be right rear. And I can make it a small gauge, or we can scroll through these. I can make it a bar graph. I want an actual digital display, so that's what we'll go with there. We'll save that. There, added right rear tire temperature to my dash. So Now I will have it displayed. Now I can either pay attention to that while I'm doing the burnout and whatnot. I can actually watch the dash, or what I kind of want to do, and this is just going to be me kind of maximizing the more fueltech features. And I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but the dash itself has virtual LEDs. So this is what I'm using them for right now. They're, when the bike is on, if any of these warnings come up, that color bar will slide out into the dash and it'll say, oops, I just cancel that. Damn touchscreens. So whatever bar will slide out and tell me what's going on. So I have oil pressure, engine temp, electric fan, and battery voltage. And each one of those has parameters that I'll set for, if oil pressure drops below, well, actually, we can look right now. So I have it set right now. If oil pressure drops below 15 pounds, I know it seems low, but you never know. So 15 pounds of motor should still run and live, maybe not under boost, but 15 pounds, it'll still survive. But below 15, getting kind of dicey. So I have that indicator turn on at 15, or below 15 pounds, I'll get that red flash. So that's feature number one for that LED. So while each LED has three things I can monitor with it. So I could go over here to operation 2, I could give that red light, that red bar, I could give it another option for 2 and another option for 3. So each LED on the dash, each one of these LEDs has 3 features I could use it for, and when it slides out, it'll tell me what it is. So if this oil pressure was set for something else, or the one that says oil pressure now, if that was set up to monitor something else, when that slid out, it would say whatever that other thing is. It wouldn't say oil pressure. If it was battery voltage, we'll say. So it's a cool feature, but what I want to do is in the bottom corner here for battery voltage, there's 2 other operations that LED can monitor. Well, what I want to do is it'll be always on. We'll change that to blinking. So now operation number 2, it can be an and or feature. I'm going to change it to or, so it'll be this function or this function will trigger that pink LED to come out. So we'll set it for or. Now select value to test. What I want to do is go to tire temperature. Oops, turn that off. Value to test. Scroll down here, we'll go to tire temperature again. Tire temperature. Now I want to watch right rear tire temperature. So brought it up, tire temperature, right rear. And what I'm going to do is, this is already set up here now, but I want it to turn on inside of a range. So that pink LED will slide out into my face so I can see it if the tire temperature is between 100 and 125 degrees. If it's below that, it'll be off. If it goes above that, it'll turn off. So now we'll save that. So now there's my low limit for the tire. So now I want to take this oil pressure indicator, which just happens to be in line with on the dash of where the tire temperature display will be. So just out of convenience now, I'm going to take the second operation for that oil pressure light. It's going to be blinking, so anytime I get an indicator with that light, it'll blink at me. So it doesn't come out and permanently stay on and then it'll block info, whatever. So it'll flash and I can still see what's behind it. So I'll take operation 2, and I want it to be, it can be and or. Well, I want it to be or. I want it to be oil pressure or tire temperature. So now I selected or for the operation. We'll go to value to test or to check. Damn it. There. Over here. Scroll this down to tire temperature again. Tire temperature right rear. Turn that on. Now I'm going to give this an upper value, or I shouldn't say upper. I want to give it a higher value than the last one I set. So the last parameters I set was 100 to 125. So now what I want to do is turn this thing on inside of a range. So inside of a range, it'll be, I want a small window of clearance here. So just bump the laptop. So we'll go, it was 125 on the low side. So now we'll go 130 to about we'll call it 150 on the high side. I don't think I've had a tire temperature that I needed that was above 150. Probably closer to 140, but this will give me a little window that light will stay on. So if this particular light goes off now, after it already came on down here pink, in this corner, it comes on pink, lets me know it's between 100, 125, then that LED will turn off, it'll go out. Then up here, my red one will come on once the tire gets from 130 to 150. So I know once that red light is on, if that goes out, that tire is too hot, it's over 150. So if I let it wait a minute at the starting line till the temperature comes back down, and once it gets into that range, 130 to 150, that LED will blink at me again. Let me know the tire is good. So hopefully this all works in theory. I'm sure there's other ways to set it up. Like I said, I'm still a rookie at fueltech software and standalone stuff, but I think I'm making pretty good use of what I got available for maximizing my dash and my features and everything without adding no real extra wiring or other LEDs or whatever. It's just all kind of here. So I'm going to use it. And it might not make sense to somebody else if they hop on the bike. I could explain it, but it's my bike. I'm the one that has to ride it. I tune it. I set all this up, so it makes sense to me. So we will leave this one set. My high side is going to be 130 to 150. We'll save that. And now we know I got 100 to 125 on the low side. And we got up here in the corner, left corner, it'll be 129.9, so 130 to 150. So we'll go back and double check here, make sure we have inputs. Where'd the inputs go? There's inputs. Inputs, make sure I saved it. White number 14, that'll be right rear tire temp. And I think that's all I'm going to do for now. What I'll have to do is, for a tire temp yet, I'll have to go in here and actually, excuse me, I'll go in and scale this thing down over here. I'll let it interpolate. I'll give it, I don't even know offhand. I'll have to look at the paperwork on the sensor, but it'll be 0 voltage at the sensor will equal, blank degrees. 5 voltage will equal whatever the maximum rating is on the sensor. I think it's 392 degrees Fahrenheit, I think is the max that it reads. So I'll change that to 5 volts to be 392. 0 would be, I think Fahrenheit would be 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So I can set all that up later. Right now, this was just a quick get the dash set up, get that that input turned on. So now I'm actually going to go wire the bike now. Just wanted to give me my location on that connector that we saw. So we'll take that from there. First, I'm going to save this business here. So there's my map, 8314 225. So we'll save that quick, and then I'll do a quick save as, just to save it into the laptop itself. So we'll go here, Documents, FuelTech, Maps. And we'll match that up. That one there. Save it. It's going to tell me it's already saved under that name. Do you want to replace it? Yes. So there. Saved it. Now we'll just close this out and we'll go work on the bike. Yeah, see, it double checks with you. Make sure you're sure you want to do what you want to do. It wants me to save it again. So yeah, I'll just say yeah. Makes it easy. So that's that part of things. So what a fellow's going to do now is pull the fairings on the nose off this thing so I can wire in my sensor connections. Everything's kind of hidden up behind the left side of the fairing here. Use my trusty little Harbor Freight $20 screwdriver. I'm telling you, best investment I made if you're pulling fairings off all the time. It's getting cold out here. See my breath. It's 27 degrees in the shop. So you're just going to get to watch this and fast forward. So enjoy.
Well, cinnamon bits. I got the sensor wired up, connected, all good. Got my connector up in here for it. Then I ran the cable along the chassis up to my control center up here. I got my, 5-volt sensor ground here, my chassis ground, my 12-volt power, and then the input from the ECU is actually here. This is the wire I was talking about I had to repin. It's my pin location number 19 on that B connector. So that I need to get the USB cable, which I left at home, and turn that input on so that the ECU will acknowledge that sensor now. And then after that, I should have the new display with the temperature readout and all my indicator settings figured out. And then we'll be ready to go. Hopefully we get tire temperature. Shop update. Almost reached 40 degrees in here today. Got to get to work. All right, home stretch. So went back and double checked. My tire temperature input is active now. Now we're going to go ahead and scale the sensor. So over here I got my voltage here, 0 volts in a value and 5 volts in a value. It's a 0 to 5 volt sensor. The sensor is set to read in Fahrenheit. 0 volts will be 32 degrees and 5 volts will read a maximum of 392 degrees. And it does everything in between. So this is all turned on. I'll go up here and I'll save this. I'll save it under current map. Yep. Go ahead and replace that. Yep, they're all good. And I'm going to write that to the ECU. So we're going to start with the first one, this bottom map here. I'm going to send that to the ECU. And just like that, it loaded into the ECU. And if we look right down here, it says TRR, temperature for right rear. Now if I turn the bike on, actually fire it up, and it's reading right there about 37, 38 degrees, which is pretty much right on because that's about the temperature in the shop right now. So if the tire's that temperature right now, we're good. Now I'll go ahead and stick my finger in front of that sensor and watch what number we get. There. Now my finger's in front of the sensor, it's climbing. 69, 70 degrees. I have to go ahead and say my hand feels like it's about 70 degrees. And fingers out of the way, back down to about 39, 40 degrees, about shop temperature. So I think we're good. Now I've got to go and just add that little feature to the rest of my maps. So fun little update. Took a while for me to get this project done. So it was actually a 2-part video here, but I only come out here about 15, 20 minutes at a time sometimes. And just with the temperature and the weather, that's all I could squeak in. But it's done, it works, on to the next. Thanks for watching.